So the Americans are threatening sanctions on India. Meanwhile, China has started a trade war of its own. It is throttling supplies of rare earth minerals. These minerals are critical for making electronics. China is blocking their supply, and India is at the receiving end. Take Foxconn, for example. It is a contract manufacturer. It is Apple's biggest supplier. It makes all kinds of Apple products, from iPhones to iPads to AirPods. Foxconn makes all of it. AirPods are Apple's wireless earphones. And Foxconn makes these AirPods in India. It has a factory in the southern Indian state of Telangana. They started making AirPods in India in April last year. This was part of a diversification plan set in motion by both Apple and Foxconn. They wanted to expand manufacturing beyond China, so they used this Telangana facility to make AirPods. But now they're facing hurdles. Because of the short supply of rare earths, specifically two rare earth minerals, neodymium and dysprosium. There's a shortage of these two minerals, and they are used to produce AirPods. And why is there a shortage? Because China has clamped down on supplies. Reports say Foxconn has submitted an application addressed to the government of China. If they approve, if Beijing approves, then the supplies will resume. What does this tell you? There's a Chinese chokehold on manufacturers in India. And we've been talking about this on the show. China has changed its export rules, especially for the supplies of rare earths. Suppliers must now get a license. In other words, Beijing is using the red tape to restrict the flow of critical raw materials. And China has a monopoly on these materials. So Foxconn could be waiting for a similar approval, although it insists that its production has not been hit by the shortage, not yet. But Foxconn is not the only one that's grappling with this new challenge. Other companies in India and American companies too are struggling. They've been having trouble getting magnets, the kind that are used in advanced tech, from electric vehicles to wind turbines to MRI machines. You need magnets to make all of this. And again, China controls the supply. So Beijing has leveraged it. And Trump has given in. Last month, he struck a deal with the Chinese to resume rare earth shipments to the US, so Americans hope that the supply will improve. But what about the rest of the world? You see, China introduced these blocks, to protect itself against Trump's trade war. That's why they brought in the licenses. But now the same licenses are being used as a weapon, especially against trade partners like India. And New Delhi did raise it last week. India's External Affairs Minister was in China, that's S. Jaishankar. He attended the SCO Foreign Ministers meeting, the meeting of the Shanghai Cooperation Organization. Foreign ministers of all member countries gathered in China. S. Jaishankar also met with top Chinese officials during this trip, and he raised the trade issue with Wang Yi, his Chinese counterpart. He said, and I quote, "India and China must avoid restrictive trade barriers." Restrictive trade barriers. He was referring to this. Indian importers have been having a hard time. They must now go through a 40 to 45-day procurement process. They have to go through lengthy documentation, more paperwork, and authentication by China. These new rules were introduced in April. First, they hit India's automakers, and now they're hurting our tech companies. So we raised this with China, and what was China's response? It said it is speeding up the approvals. But in the same breath, China also says, and I'm quoting again, it will strengthen the process. So instead of removing these barriers, these new barriers, China will reinforce them. In other words, China's export licenses are here to stay. They serve a dual purpose. They give Beijing leverage against Trump's trade war, and they keep emerging rivals like India in check. You see, international companies are shifting away from China. For years now, they've been trying to do this. Many of them are setting up facilities in India. Apple's move to India is one of the biggest manufacturing success stories over the past decade for us. Since China cannot stop these companies from moving out, it is blocking supplies of raw materials. It used the same tactic during the pandemic. It blocked the supply of APIs, that's active pharmaceutical ingredients, APIs. These are key ingredients to make medicines. China held them back to slow down India's pharma companies during the pandemic, and now it is holding back rare earths to slow down India's tech sector.
Firstpost now available in 9 languages on YouTube. English,
Stands at $36 trillion.
French,
Le FMI, comme
German,
Geschäftsführenden Direktor
Hindi,
$30 trillion ka karjo.
Indonesian,
Pemerintah tanpa pemeriksaan.
Italian,
Sekali radikali.
Japanese,
$4 trilhão.
Portuguese,
Por causa do próprio balanço patrimonial.
Spanish.
Beautiful bill.
Go to Settings, click on Audio Track and select a language of your choice. Be the first to know what's happening around you in your first language. Firstpost.